Alright, good morning everyone. Welcome to Marketing Management. We will be covering right from the basics 101 to advanced marketing today. And this has been designed so that we can understand, we can relate to what marketing is and how marketing is important, especially given its complex business times, to be able to take those prudent decisions that you as managers need to take in your respective organizations. We are going to try to make it as interactive as possible, given that this delivery is going to be from me to you. It's not going to be possible to listen to your questions at this point, but we shall be able to listen to them if you have any post this session today. The marketing material has been sent to you via email. You have a total of 10 marketing chapters that we are going to be covering. In the course outline, you have something about these 10 chapters that we'll be covering today. In addition, what we have is a textbook that you can refer to in the future. And this textbook is by Philip Kotler and Kevin Keller, who are the pioneers or the gurus in marketing. A very strong reference book that you can refer to. Even I refer to it whenever I need to refer to it in my current situation as a consultant, and we do refer to it continuously in solving marketing related issues. My name is Umesh Kothari, and I have been chosen as your facilitator today to be able to undergo a deeper understanding of marketing is all about. Some of you in your respective roles do carry out the marketing function. Some collaborate with a marketing specialist or a professional in your current roles in your respective organizations. So let's get started. Very excited to deliver and understand what marketing is all about. We look at the first chapter in marketing, which is defining marketing for the 21st century. As you can see, the title itself is complex by saying, how do we define marketing given the role of marketing that it has evolved in the 21st century to be able to understand, to be able to take those complex business decisions that organizations need to take. Interestingly, what has happened is in the last year and a half, when we've kind of sat in a forum, we've kind of sat in a C executive or in a CEO driven forum, we were not given a marketing problem or a finance problem or a strategy problem. What we are given is a business problem. Now, interestingly, what has happened is when these business problems arise, and they typically arise from the fact that we need to understand how to grow market share, how to grow business volumes, what geographic territories should we tap into, who should we tap into, have become more business problems than functional problems. So, whilst we talk about marketing, we will be at the end of this day or at the end of this session today should be able to understand how can marketing be leveraged to resolve, to understand a business driven issue. And that's what we're going to be talking about, because I think you must be experiencing it also. You no longer have got to be a functional specialist, you'd rather be a holistic business specialist to address business problems, of course, using the knowledge of marketing that you have either acquired or gained. So let's get started. In marketing, we have various aspects that we'll be covering in the first chapter. Of course, in the first chapter, basically introduces you to various concepts of marketing, which we will be talking about as we progress into this chapter now. On slide number 3, what you see is a connection between marketing and revenue generation. Now, marketing does create jobs, of course. These jobs are more customer centric, more customer driven, and obviously these jobs ultimately help organizations to achieve what they need to achieve. And organizations are mainly profit centric, and therefore organizations need to achieve these profits through marketing driven roles or through marketing driven functions or through marketing driven objectives that they have. So what is marketing? Marketing is defined as various definitions of marketing. Various people have defined it. based on their interaction with marketing. But the most common one is from the American Marketing Association, and which is basically what you see on your slide. It is an activity. So it is no longer a task, it is an activity which helps you process, not just to create, but to communicate, and not just to communicate, but to deliver. And this delivery is addressing or meeting a customer need or requirement, and therefore the exchange. A customer has a need, a prospect has a need, and this need is met through marketing efforts from the organizations. Ultimately, the buzzword there now is that all of this needs to create value. This value is to the stakeholders, which is basically to your customers, which is basically to your employees, which is basically to your prospects, clients, your partners, and to the society at large in which you are operating. So or each word in this definition is important because it focuses on the aspect that it creates a need which could be implied, which could be latent, and we'll talk about this need slightly later as we progress into marketing or as we dive into marketing. But nevertheless, what we need to understand at this point of time is that there is a need, and this need could be specified, which is the customer or the prospect has expressed it. I want a I want to consume a beverage at this hour of the day. That's a need expressed by the customer, by the consumer. It could be the other way around also. At this hour of the day, my target, my prospect needs to consume a beverage, and therefore that need is created, and that need is created to be able to satisfy a need which the consumer must not has not felt as of now. Take a classic example of chocolates. When were chocolates typically consumed? Chocolates were typically consumed either in the evening or along with a friend or at a celebration. So the consumption was not as frequent as probably today you see. Where all have chocolates penetrated? Chocolates have penetrated for their consumption throughout the day. Did we ever think of the fact that chocolates could satisfy hunger? Did we ever think of the fact that chocolates could satisfy as a snack? And therefore, chocolates have entered into these various little consumption moments of the day. And these moments were met by not expressed but by created needs, as we call them as latent needs. By and large, we need to provide value to the stakeholders at large. And how do we create these values? We understand these values through an activity called as research. And this research helps you understand what is it that my customer wants, and how do I therefore bridge or address these needs or wants of my customers. Let's take an example of juices. We always consumed juices. Say 10 years ago, we did consume juice because we thought that that was healthy. Today, when we consume juice, we first look at the brand, we then look at the packaging, we then read the ingredients, and then we pick up the brand. We are still consuming the same juice, we are still consuming it from the same manufacturer, but what has now come into light is the education that it provides us before we decide to pick up the brand. And this education, if you look at the juice packs nowadays, it says no sugar, it says more fruit juice content, it says reduced sugar, it says more natural. These are the words that have come onto the packaging today. Why? Because we want to consume healthy juices. You have the bigger market. You have brands like Almarai catering to this. You have brands like Barakat catering to fresh juice content, which says nothing but juice. We have the private label brands like the Carrefours and the Lulus also selling you fresh juices, uh, or detox drinks as you call them, at the counter itself. So you have the market which is evolved from just a juice that was offered to you 10, 12 years ago to a healthy beverage, if I can use it, today. And there are, look at the flavors that are available in the market. Any idea how many variants of flavors exist in the market today? Take a wild guess, and I think the numbers there in your wild guesses, if you're right, if you're close to it also, it is above 80 brands and variants of juices that exist in the market. So, with 80 brands or juices that exist in the market, what do you think, or how many brands, or what do you think is the market share of the lead brand? The lead brand here is Lacnode and Milko put together, and their market share together is close to about 28%. Now, with that being the case, more than 40 brands of juice manufacturers in this country, the lead brands being Lacnode and Milko, offering you to the combined market share of about 28%. What can I say about this market? Well, typically, what I can say about this market is that it is a competitive, it is a fragmented, and it is a highly dynamic market in which I have operating, and this market being the juice market in the UAE. Have you heard of the brand called Capri? Yes, some of you may have heard, some of you vividly remember about it, some of you probably have not heard about it. Capri is a juice brand that exists in the market. And the market share of this brand is less than 1%. So do you think Capri needs marketing? Of course it does need marketing. The key reason for why it needs marketing is to be able to reach out to its target customers, which is children, particularly of the younger age group, to be able to reach out to them and to be able to be preferred or to be able to be considered as their preferred brand when compared to a competitive brand set of more than 40 brands. Uh, what at the same time I'm saying, do you think brands like Lacnode, which are lead brands, need research or need marketing? And the answer there is also yes, because they need to sustain, they need to maintain, they need to increase their market share in this competitive marketplace as well. So no matter how the market is, no matter how competitive the market is, no matter how established the brand is, marketing as a function is essential for any and all organizations in this competitive dynamic world. Look at the way we are reaching out, and we look at the way that we have continuously modified ourselves so that the core objective of learning, the core objective of understanding always stays the same. Whether in class or whether online, the objective is to provide maximum value to you as a customer so that learning happens at the same rate or at the same pace as which it has been envisaged. And that actually is commendable, because that, given that objective, we or and people around have worked together to bring to you what has to be brought to you in terms of quality education. And this is no marketing spiel. This is what we see around. This is what we've been reading around, especially given the change of the dynamic movements in which the workforce has to adapt itself into, so that it brings what it is supposed to bring to the stakeholders at large. And this is not just being seen in the UAE, it's being seen in the Middle East, it's being seen in the United States, it's also being seen in the Asia markets, where people have moved a step ahead and said that people need not in the education industry only, but people in the workforce, people in the organization that they're working in can work from home. And that concept is being introduced because of a rapid changing, dynamic economic movement trying to minimize impact and at the same time achieve optimum objectives that it needs to achieve in the most efficient manner. So, marketing, of course, it creates value, but at the same time, it should create value in a continuous setup, not a constant setup. So, your markets are evolving, your markets are ever changing, and you, as a marketer, need to adjust yourself to the changing marketing environments. When you prepared your marketing plans in December 2019, did you prepare it keeping the current considerations into account? And the answer obviously is no. So, whilst you're planning, you need to come up with secondary, I'm not even saying secondary, you need to come up with a sub-secondary plan also, which lets you adapt yourself to the agile business conditions or the dynamic business conditions in which you're operating. And I think plans, therefore, are to be made. Don't mistake me by saying that you don't need to make plans. But when you make plans, these plans are not constant, they are evolving, and they keep evolving until you are able to achieve your objectives. So, now, when you had your plans in December, you must have had a section this year which focused on Expo 2020 and the business opportunity or the growth that it's going to contribute to their overall growth. But that is a addendum, that is an appendix that you are adding on to your business plans this year or your marketing plans this year. And these plans, and that additional or that outbreak is going to be different next year, it's going to be different the year after, it wasn't there the last year. Similarly, what you're going to be adding is, because of the way the business has been impacted in the first quarter, what plans are we going to make to be able to grow quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4 this year. And not just us, not just the region, but the world economy itself has shrunk by about 3%, at least is what I'm told. We don't know the real numbers. The real numbers will be coming out end of quarter 1. But if it has shrunk by 3%, can you imagine what is going to happen to emerging markets, and especially to growing markets like the Middle East or like the GCC markets, where tourism, where retail, where events are key drivers of growth, especially in the first half of the year. Yeah. So moving on, let's continue with this thought in mind, is that marketing creates or addresses a need which exists, or that is being understood, that this could be a need or this could be a potential in the market, with the key objective of creating value to not just your customer but to all your stakeholders at large. Now, if that is what is marketing, then what is marketing management? And marketing management, in short, would mean nothing but marketing what you are planning to market. Obviously, yes, but marketing management is both an art and a science. It's more of an art than a science, but it's both, is what we acknowledge. And this art science combo is mainly not just to select your target markets, but to reach out to your target markets, and not just to reach out to them, but to retain and grow your markets to be able to achieve your objectives or your organization's objectives. Now, when you do whatever you do to achieve your objective, I think the buzzword now is to do it by creating superior or by enhancing value to your customers. So at the end of the day, everything has to be surrounded around your customers. A month ago or so, the I think the healthcare industry went through a lot of evolution here in the UAE, and the healthcare industries brought a chart forward. It was in the press of the media, and this chart said, keeping the patient in mind. Now, which is very beautiful, because you're doing everything and anything to keep the patient happy, and not the processes, not the healthcare providers, not the governments, and not the market, but keeping the patients in mind. The banking industry, unfortunately or fortunately, has been going through a lot of change in terms of the processes, but these processes are not back end, they are more front end. So you have a nice branch, you have an automated branch, you have a digitized operation, but the bottlenecks at the back end are still to be addressed, and these bottlenecks would be addressed, obviously, but the rationale for that should not be cost. The rationale for that should be customer convenience or customer centricity, or keeping the customer in mind. So, nevertheless, from this slide, the key takeaway is customer first, everything else around the customer, rather than the other way around. The customer should not be around the processes should be around the customer. Okay, now, What all is marketed? Now let's try and understand a few concepts. Let's take a back step and understand some of the concepts that we're trying to understand when we try to answer the question, what is marketed? Now, what are we marketing? We are marketing anything and everything under the sun. So what are the types of goods and services that we are marketing? So we are marketing a good and we are marketing a service. Now, what is a good? Any thinking, any thoughts? Yes, a good is anything which is tangible, which can be seen. I can see the bottle of water, so that is tangible. But what I am imparting right now, it cannot be seen, it can only be experienced, and therefore that is a service. Now, various kinds of goods are marketed. We call them as FMCG, or fast moving consumer goods and durables. Now, as the name stands for, which is a fast moving consumer good, a fast moving consumer good are your perishables, are your goods which have a shorter shelf life. So things like water, juice, biscuit, food items are all short lived, and therefore they are termed as fast moving consumer goods. We have durables. Obviously, durables, as the name stands, are slightly more long lasting, like furniture, like television, like a laptop. And therefore, the decision making process for a durable is slightly more longer than a fast moving consumer good. A fast moving consumer good is therefore perishable. You decide to pick up a juice brand without many thoughts of process or without many thinking, and you just buy one because you're satisfying a particular need. A durable is slightly more long lived, so the decision making process is slightly more evolved and involved. You do take into account the decisions or the words or the opinions of your target group or of your reference groups. And with these groups, what you do is you then think about what you need to buy and ultimately buy the product or the service or the good that you're willing to buy. So you have goods which are FMCG, short-lived, goods which are long-lived, and they are called as durables. A good is nothing else but something which is felt, which is tangible, which can be seen, which can be actually therefore seen and then purchased. You have something called as a service, or you called as a which is called as an intangible. You don't feel it, you experience it. You've gone to a restaurant, you've eaten whatever kind of food or cuisine that you've eaten. Ultimately, when you come out and you've paid some money for it, and what do you say? That you have enjoyed the experience, or the experience was average, or the experience was ruined. And this is not to the food that you've eaten, but to everything that has gone into giving that food, which is the service, which is the ambience, which is the environment in which you have gone and experienced this. So that's a service. What does the airline do? The airline also gives you a service. What does a pay TV station do? It's giving you a service. What does a hotel industry do? It's giving you a service. So you have services, you have marketing of services, and you have marketing of goods. And marketing has got to be dealt with both goods as well as services. You can go back and see and refer to your organizations in which you are working, whether they are marketing goods, FMCG, or durables, or are they marketing a service. uh, it's more of a challenge to develop and to stick and to measure marketing of services. Why so? Because you are dealing with intangibles, not something which are measurable. So I cannot stand up and say, uh, this restaurant is good, and I cannot, because I cannot show you the service that is being offered at that restaurant. You need to experience it yourself, or that experience has got to be explained to you before you can go and make a decision or to buy the or to avail of that service. But in the case of a shoe, if I say I'd rather you should must buy these Nike shoes, or you must buy these Under Armour apparel, there is something that you can see, and there is something that you want, and therefore you can match the two together and buy the good that you are intending to buy. Uh, the online platform is another big change that has happened, and people are now buying your tangibles, your goods online as well, instead of just going and visiting the store and buying your retail in person purchase of goods that you intend buying. In addition, what you also market, you market places for tourism. Dubai, for example, is marketing itself as a retail hub, as a medical hub, and as a very strong tourist destination across the globe for people to come and explore what they need to explore across or all round in the year, summer, winter, uh, and the various other aspects that it has to offer during the different seasons, during the different times of years. Events. You market events also. The Expo 2020 is a classic example of marketing of events. You have various exhibitions like the GITEX, like the ADIPEX, that are marketing certain events or certain conferences that are held to be able to. The OPEC, for example, is also marketing a certain uh, rule, certain regulation towards the government benefits or the government positivity in which it's going to be able to deal with these aspects. So let's move on. Let's move on again with marketing. What all we are marketing. Who markets and to whom? Now, who markets and to whom? When we look at the slide, what we're looking at is we have the marketing organization on one hand, and we have the target at the other hand. So this target does not mean a person who you're going to shoot, but this target basically means a person who you are after as your target market, and therefore we call it as a prospect. So we say these are the kind of customers that I am targeting, or these are the kinds of customers that I intend to attract. Therefore, it's very important to understand who is your target market. Okay. Now, classic example, you all aware of the brand called Bounty. It is a chocolate brand offered by Master Foods here in the UAE. Now, Bounty is a chocolate brand. How many of you eat Bounty? Well, quite a number of men and women eat Bounty. If I were to now tell you that Bounty is a chocolate that is to be purchased or that is to be targeted towards females, now how many of you eat Bounty? We can still see some men raising their hand. There's nothing wrong in that. It's just that will I now, whatever marketing I am doing, whatever feedback that I'm getting, should I get from both men and women, or should I get it from women, or should I get it from men only? Who should I be marketing, or who should I be targeting? The answer there is, if the target market for Bounty is women, then we should only be interested in opinions of women. The buying habits, the needs, the requirements of men should be ignored, because that is not my target audience. Hence, it is very essential to understand who is my target audience. Coke and Pepsi, for example, do you think they're targeting the labor class in this country? The answer is no. Their target markets are a different age or different profile. Pepsi is only targeting teens and it's targeting sport lovers, whereas Coke, on the other hand, has a broader age band that it is targeting, and therefore it is important, rather, it is essential to target, to understand who are you targeting, and therefore you only target that demographic profile as your target market, because that is the person, or those are the profile of people that you are interested in, because your organization is after them. Going back, what you can understand is what in your respective businesses, whether you're marketing a product or a service, and you can also understand who is your target market. Who am I targeting? What is the demographic profile of the person that I'm targeting in terms of their age, in terms of their nationality, in terms of their uh, income, in terms of the geographic locations. Who am I targeting is very, very essential before you put out any marketing plans or you roll out any marketing plans for that matter. Now, what is demand? Demand is, we're not going to go into the economic definition of demand. We're going to go into the business definition of demand. And now this demand is what? This demand means nothing else but the need or requirements that have been stated, that have been expressed by your target market. Now, lay emphasis on the words here. Demand is the needs and expectations of my target market, of my target audience. So, target audience, we've understood, we've discussed it so far, that this target audience means the demographic profile of the people whom you're going to target. Needs and requirements is something that can be expressed by your customer saying, I need this, or it can be implied saying, I think I need this, or it can be further implied by saying, I know tomorrow you will need this. So that's your needs and requirements or demand. And ultimately, what we're talking about is how are we going to market this, all of this needs and requirements to my target audience. Yeah. So various kinds of demands, and let's try and understand some of them. There is a negative demand also. When do people have a negative demand? Now this negative demand rolls out from actual demand to negative demand. When is there a negative demand? I'm sure you must have experienced it also. A negative demand happens when you are disliking something. You've bought a Samsung television and you're not happy with the Samsung television, you dislike it for whatever reason, and therefore there is a negative demand for them because it's going to spill out by negative word of mouth saying, please, when you're looking at televisions, do not consider Samsung. When you are going to try a new restaurant out, what do? You just try them out on your own? Are you that bold? No, you're not nowadays, because you look at something called as Zomato ratings. So you go onto the website, you look at the Zomato ratings, you look at the previews that people have given, and if it matches, then obviously you're going to take that plunge, you're going to take that risk and go and try out this new restaurant or new cuisine that you've always been wanting to try. But if there is a negative word of mouth, or if there is a negative comment there, or if there's a negative rating there, then obviously you're going to rethink about your decision, probably postpone, probably still venture out if you're a risk taker, which is rare, and probably say, I'm not going to go and do this. I'd rather do something else which is better than what I have seen now. Also happens for movies, also happens for shows, for events, where a lot of insights are taken from experiences that people have made, as opposed to take that wildcard decision based on your instincts nowadays. Non-existing demand. People are not aware or not expressed, or they do not think that they need this product or a service. How many of us, and that is kind of more similar to latent also, because non-existing, at least there is some kind of need expressed. Latent, it is somewhere in your mind but not come out. 6 years, 10 years ago, how many of us thought that we needed a smartphone? Today it's a joke, because everybody needs a smartphone, and everybody is on the smartphone. On a Sheikh Zayed 40-50 story tower that we see in Dubai, after the third or the fourth tower, or the fourth floor, I know there is no internet, especially when you're in the elevator. But when you see your colleagues around in the elevator, what are they doing? They're scrolling down the smartphone. You need a app on your smartphone to go circle out the other apps and come and give you all the information that you need on your palm, on a quick inquiry that you've made. So this kind of an habit is actually going to go back to your saying it was non-existent at that time, it was latent, but it is very much a part and parcel of your DNA now, that you are experiencing on a day to day, on a hour to hour, on a minute to minute basis. Moving on to declining demand. Now, demand is not always the same for goods and services because your needs change across the board. If you are a lot of, for example, food eating habits, how many of us are now wanting to go and dine in and eat something? So your fine dine restaurants or your dining in restaurants are facing a big blow to their business because people's preferences have changed and people's preferences have moved towards ordering in or home delivery. And therefore, home delivery business is increasing in the UAE as opposed to dining in business. And that therefore we see a demand decline for in restaurants or fine dining, but we see a demand increase for 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 home delivery for that matter. Similarly, we see a demand decrease, we see the demand switch to online, rather not online itself, but to ready to eat foods and packets that are also being purchased by executives, by people, because they don't have the time to go and prepare it on their own. They'd rather not eat out or order in on an everyday basis. Moving on, we have something called as irregular demand. Irregular demand is also called as a seasonal demand or also called as a time-bound demand. So we're all aware of the brand called Vimto. Now Vimto is from the house of Pepsi Colas, and when we see for Vimto is that Vimto's demand is mostly seasonal. When is the time when we see a lot of marketing activity around the brand Vimto, and we see it during the time of Ramadan. During the time of Ramadan, Vimto is consumed post your fast breaking during the day, at the end of the day, and a lot of people are consuming Vimto. So a lot of promotion, a lot of marketing activity for the brand is around that time rather than at any time of the year. Full demand, they are buying all the products that enter into the market. So for example, some of us are so brand loyal that we have everything for Apple, the Apple Watch, the Apple laptop, the Apple laptops, the everything and anything by Apple. So we are all an Apple connected family. uh, we are at the same time, we have everything and anything from the brand of Sony, so we are buying the full suite of those products and services. Sometimes there are more buyers than the products that are available, and that is called as an excess, or that is also called as an overfull demand. Now, overfull demand is when iPhones are being launched, you have more demand than supply at that point of time, and then later on it kind of averages itself out based on the demand. The supply equals to demand. Uh, what about the real estate market now in the UAE? Do you think that is an overflow of demand? There is not an overflow of demand, but yes, less there are less buyers and there are more properties available at this point of time. So it's an overflow, but from the other perspective, more negative than positive. And that is also possible when you're marketing. You must understand this demand as well. Unwholesome demand. Unwholesome demand is basically consumers are attracted, or consumers are purchasing goods and services which are not appealing to the society at large, and these include products such as cigarettes, or products such as obese food, fast food, unhealthy food, carbonated drinks, things of that kind, which are less healthy to the consumer at large. Markets. Now, what is a market? A market in the past used to be an actual physical place where you can buy and sell either a good or a service. Now, this has moved away from being a physical place to any place where you can buy and sell goods and services. So, it could be online, it could be remote, it should be offshore, it should be onshore, it could be anything or any place where a service provider or a marketer is able to provide goods and services needed by its target market. Yeah. So what happens in the slide that you see is that you have manufacturers that go to resource markets. Now, what do you mean by resource markets? Resource markets are markets where people are offering either semi-finished goods and services, or they are offering finished goods and services, and therefore these goods and services are required by manufacturers to provide completed goods and services to their target market. What are consumers doing instead? Consumers are offering their need. Consumers are also offering their services or labor to be able to provide, or to be able to fulfill, to be able to help manufacturers manufacture those goods and services. So you have the manufacturers, you have the consumers, and then you have the central body, which is government. And this government is doing what? It is ensuring a balance in the market, either through free management of demand and supply, or through a very interventionist approach. And it also earns revenues or collects revenues to be able to keep its, through taxes, direct or indirect, to be able to continue to provide a certain good, a style or certain level of goods and services to your target market. So any economy, whether it is developed or it is developing or it is underdeveloped, has the three principal components, which is manufacturers, consumers, and the government, to keep the cycle, to keep the marketing cycle or marketing flow ongoing in an economy, for the economy to grow and prosper. So the figure 1.1 explains exactly what we have just discussed now. It talks about the manufacturer going into a resource market, and then the consumer also going into the resource market. Ultimately, you have the government, which is in the center, collecting taxes and goods and services. In the past, you had a simple marketing system which had the industry and the market, but you have more complex marketing systems that are running nowadays, with more cross wires moving back and forth between the marketer or the seller and the buyer. Various kinds of markets here. We talk about a consumer market. Like a consumer market is a fast moving consumer good, or a durable, or a service market. You have a global market because you're operating across territories, across regions, across different geographies and boundaries on a global level. You have an industrial market or a business market, also called as an institutional market, wherein your end user or your target group is not a consumer, but it is a organization. We call it as B2C, which is business to business, B2B, which is our business market, and a B2C called as a consumer market. Government market. Some of us are only appealing or catering to the needs and requirements of government. So we provide government services. We help in providing government services. Therefore, it's a government market. Therefore, it is a public market rather than as a private market. Marketplace. A marketplace is a place either created physically or virtually, where the buyer and the seller meet to be able to create that exchange between the need that is felt by the consumer and the supply that is being offered by the manufacturer. So you have marketplaces, you have market spaces where people are just marketing a certain space. This is more in the advertising industry, where you're marketing spaces nowadays with digital marketing also on board. And you have the bigger cycle of meta markets, wherein your markets are so complex that it reaches out to different aspects or different people on a global level across 24/7, across all times. So we have touched upon this. We've talked about needs, wants, and demands. We have discussed this from the consumer, the customer perspective. Offerings and brands. What is offering? Offering is basically something that that is my unique selling proposition, that are my product properties, that are my features that I'm providing, or what is the suite of products that I'm offering. Uh, a brand is slightly above an offering. A brand is more strategic from the point of view of I am creating a value based on the brand, and therefore we are all brand conscious customers nowadays, or consumers nowadays. We talk brands, we live brands, we are positively disposed towards brands, and we are negatively disposed towards brands also. So we like something that a brand is doing, or we dislike something no matter what that brand is doing. Under Armour, for example, was never a brand that people considered in the sports industry. It was always Nike and Reebok. With the quality of goods and services that it is starting to offer now, with the variety that it is offering now, with the service that it is offering now, Under Armour is come big time in terms of offering what it is supposed to be offering and competing with your Nike and Adidas and Reeboks of the world. Target market, we understand what is target market. Positioning, what does the word positioning mean? The word positioning means how you are going to reach out, how you are going to position yourselves to your target market or to your target consumers or customers. Segmentation, who are you targeting? Now you have 9+ million people in the UAE. Are you targeting everybody, or are you targeting a certain subset of this 9 million people? In the banking world, obviously you're not targeting everybody. You're targeting at least people who are adults, that is above 18 years of age. If you are a chocolate eater, maybe you're not targeting everybody as well. Like the Bounty example we saw, we're targeting women, we're not targeting men. If you are Coke or Pepsi, again we saw that you're not targeting everybody, but you're targeting a certain subset or sub-demographic group from the environment. You yourself, if you look at the educational institution that you have enrolled into, you are being targeted because there is a need felt, and there is a need felt that you want to acquire, or you want to gain knowledge by acquiring a master's in management or a master's degree in business, whatever that field is. You are getting a graduate degree in business, and that's what is being met because of that need that is being expressed by you as a consumer and the institute as the provider. Uh, Value and satisfaction. What is value and satisfaction? Uh, what is value? Value is something that you believe, and you, in the sense, the consumer believes that this was what I wanted, and this is what I have gotten, and I am happy because I got what I wanted. So, satisfaction only comes with value. If there is no value, there is no satisfaction. If there is value, there will always be satisfaction. They kind of positively or strongly correlated to each other. Marketing channels. What is the word marketing channel mean? It's not your television channels that we're talking about. Marketing channels are channels that are deployed to reach out to the reaching out to your target market. So some people directly reach out to the consumers, some people reach out to the consumers through wholesalers, some people reach out through the retailers. It all depends on how you are reaching them out. Who is your competition? Uh, it's very easy to say that anybody and everybody who offers the same products is my competitor. Is that real? In a market where you have 80 brands of juices, in a market where you have 45 plus banks in this market, are all of them competition? Very difficult to believe that yes, all of them will be competition. You have a broader competition, and you have a subset of that competition, which is probably a narrow range that you're competing with on a day-to-day or a more frequent basis. Supply chain is the entire supply chain, the entire logistics that you're deploying to reach out again to your end user. The environment in which you're operating is the political, legal, economic, technological, social, cultural environment in which your business is operating, which could be local for that country, which could be global also if you are a global organization. Uh, In the new marketing realities, what I need to draw your attention to is that your company capabilities are driven by major societal forces. What you are going to offer, what you are going to market, is based on a lot of enablers, as we call it, as a lot of driving forces, as we call it. And the key driving force is technology. Technology becomes more obsolete or faster obsolete than what you can imagine, and hence you need to keep pace with the technological changes that you want to come up or you want to bring about into your organization. uh, I don't know, but I think it's you most of you will have it. When you did your planning for last year, for 2020 last year, I'm sure you had this buzzword in your plans which talked about digitization, which talked about digital revolution, which talked about digital platforms to be used in your in your chain, value chain, to be able to reach out to your consumer. And when you said and did all of that, that was very good. But saying is one thing and doing is another thing. How many of us, we said it, and then when we went back and took stock of things, said, what are we going to do with our legacy systems? What are we going to do with our systems that already exist? When I say systems, I mean technology. And what are we going to do with them? Are we going to throw it out of the window, or are we going to do something about it? We just can't throw it out of the window. So we have invested that kind of money into it. And therefore, when you are investing into technology, you look at a 3-5 year window. You don't look at a 10-20 year window, because technology becomes obsolete faster than you can implement. Globalization, your markets are becoming extremely global. Sitting here in the UAE, I'm sure you're not just targeting your street, your region, your country. You're targeting a wider target audience, which is a global consumer. Consumer information, consumer is far more educated, far more involved than you think otherwise, and therefore you need to convince your customer with whatever you need, whatever you're offering. Now, you just imagine you seeing a beautiful hoarding, or you seeing a beautiful ad, uh, and you're interested in that ad for whatever reason. When you're interested into the ad for whatever reason, there is a little font size 10 wording or heading there, and it says terms and conditions apply, font size 8 or 10, or probably less than that also. The moment you see font size that saying terms and conditions apply, what is the first thought or first thing that you get about that particular hoarding, or that particular offering, or that particular scene that you are seeing? What you immediately think about is obviously a question mark. Some of you may even write that hoarding off, write that advertisement off, because you believe there's a catch to it. And you're smarter than that little font size that you've seen up there. Why? Because you want the marketer to be straight and upfront and have no hidden agenda in whatever they're willing to offer. You walk into a retail outlet and it says up to 70% discount. What do you think about that sale or discount? Do you think it's genuine? Obviously not. What else do you think? You obviously think there's a catch to it with the words that I've used, saying up to 70%. And what I've liked probably is not on discount, or it's on partial discount, and therefore the kind of things that are at 70% discount are probably things that I don't want. Things like glass bottles where you can drink water into, or probably socks if it's an apparel store. So these are aspects that you must consider. And obviously competition is one beast that will never going to let you sit idle. You must continuously think about what competition is doing. You must continuously be monitoring who is my competition, and has my competition changed, uh, or is it always going to be the same? Uh, which the answer is no, it is never going to be the same. But you need to be mindful of your competition, and you'll be amazed to see that this competition is increasing with times to come. So you have the technology, you have globalization, you have consumer information, and you have increased competition. All of this must be thought through when you are reaching out, or when you're marketing to your customer, or when you're communicating with your customer. And hence, you cannot have your marketing plans in isolation of all these aspects. It has to be in line with these societal forces. Ah, this slide, what you see up here is, though it's very simple, yet it's extremely complex. And as we answer the question saying, who is responsible for marketing? Think about it and see in your organizations who is responsible for marketing. Is it the job of the chief executive officer? Or is it the job of the chief marketing officer? Or is it the marketing functional heads? Or is it the entire organization? And the answer there is, it is the job of the entire organization, because as employees, we are ambassadors of the organizations that we work for, and it is extremely essential that we're seen as positive ambassadors of these organizations. So, the chief marketing officer, yes, marketing of functional heads, definitely yes. All people within the organization, a far superior way of looking at marketing objectives and how they are going to be achieved by the entire organization. So, it is the entire organization who's going to be responsible for implementing the marketing objectives that have been assigned to the organization. So and we'll talk about it later, but with the entire organization coming on board, it is very important to have, or to understand, to acknowledge a corporate culture that exists. Is your corporate culture democratic? Is it autocratic, or it is just free flow for all? What kind of culture is there in your organization? We met a client, 45 people in the room. The head was sitting in the center of the table, and if we appeal to the head of the center of the table, everybody, the other 44 members, are going to just nod the way in which the head nods, vertically or diagonally. And therefore, what we are trying to gauge here is that the organization is not a democratic organization. Yeah, so you have a corporate culture, that nothing wrong in either of them. It's just that you need to acknowledge, and you need to let that flow into your marketing efforts towards meeting your needs and requirements of obviously your target market. Some more marketing concepts. Uh, some more marketing concepts with regards to what is marketing and what is sales. I know the spellings are different, but any other guesses of what is marketing and what is sales? Marketing, as we saw, is exchanging ideas, exchanging products and services to meet the needs and requirements of the consumers. Marketing typically deals with product, place, price, promotion, and packaging. We will be talking about this also later as we talk about each one of them in detail. But marketing, if you are applying for a job, you're applying for a strategic role, which is marketing, you need to think through about the product, the place, the price, the promotion, and packaging of whatever you are offering as a marketing head. As a sales head, you are only implementing what has been marketed, and you are only dealing with one of the various P's, and that is product. So, marketing, we said product, place, price, promotion. There's a word for that, and that is marketing mix. Marketing deals with all P's in the marketing mix. Sales deals with only one P in the marketing mix, and that is product. And marketing deals with 4 or 5 is what we are going to be talking about. There are 7, 8 that people talk about, but let's look at the classical approach of addressing marketing marketing with the 4 or 5 P's, which is product, place, price, promotion, and packaging. Some more concepts. So that's the difference between marketing and sales. What is the difference between consumer and customer? Consumer and customer. A consumer is a person, Generally, we use the word consumer in the case of an FMCG and durable. So a consumer deals with tangibles, a customer deals with intangibles. So when you are a service, you have customers. When you have a product, you have consumers. So if you have Nestle, Nestle will have a consumer, but an Emirates Airlines has a customer. Now you see the difference in the organization. One is a tangible FMCG provider, which is Nestle. The other one offers service, which is an airline. Yeah. So one you have a customer, the other you have a consumer. So if you're going to talk about concepts like customer, we immediately know we are talking about service-based organizations. And when we are talking about consumers, we know we are talking about non-service or FMCG or durables as a product offering that we are that that the organization is offering. Holistic marketing concepts. Now, holistic marketing concepts is more integrated than what you would think otherwise, which talks about everything and anything to be able to talk about in terms of development, right from the development of the product to reaching out of the product to the consumer or the customer, as the case may be. So it is more integrated, it is more holistic. Marketing managers no longer have got to think about marketing, they also have got to think about processes, they also have got to think about finance, they also have got to think about IT, of course, how they fit into reaching out to your end consumer. And that's what we are meaning from this slide here about talking about a holistic marketing dimensions, which looks about all aspects within marketing, right from product, place, price, promotion, packaging, not only to the same functions within the same area, but also looking at how human resources, for example, can help achieve my marketing objectives. How can in IT help achieve my marketing objectives? How can the process or operations department help achieve my marketing objectives? And you need to be able to partner with these areas or functions to achieve your marketing objectives. Relationship marketing is relationship marketing is obviously going to be a marketing which is more so for services, more so with customers. When you're dealing with customers, you build relationships, you don't build products. FMCGs, what they do is they don't build relationships, but they build brands. Yeah, so you are building brands and building relationships. When you're building relationship, you must build long-term relationships, not short-term, not relationships which are so arbit that they end or they survive only based on a transaction. Integrated marketing basically covers all the aspects of marketing, which is all the communications of marketing, all the product decisions, all the pricing decisions, all the promotional decisions, ultimately to create value, to offer, to meet, to deliver customer value, obviously to the end user. Internal marketing, every unit within the organization also has to market itself in terms of how it fits the jigsaw puzzle. So you have the pricing team, the product team, the research and development team working in tandem to be able to meet the marketing needs and requirements of the organization, ultimately reaching out to your consumer or customer, as the case may be. Performance marketing. Now, what is performance marketing? Performance marketing is anything and everything that has got to do with financial accountability. So, return on investments, whether I have achieved my targets that I've set aside. If I said that my objective will be to get 10,000 customers, did I get that? Of course, where we are doing our businesses nowadays, we are saying it needs to be in a sustainable manner. It needs to be in a manner which is acceptable to the society. So all we are taking account for our actions and for what we are doing. Therefore, what we are saying is that we need to do things with a lot of social responsibility. And therefore, there is a word that we are using, which is corporate social responsibility. We have talked about the 4 P's of marketing, rather product, within product you have packaging, pricing, promotion, and place. What is the typical job of a marketing manager? The typical job of a marketing manager is obviously to do, my answer to that would be to do everything and anything with marketing to create, sustain, to meet and deliver and exceed expectations in terms of creating value to your customers. So these are the tasks that you typically do. Obviously, you develop plans, and then for the plans that you've developed, you need to develop the strategies. You need to ensure what insights do I have about my customer or my organization or my competition, which I need to build into my marketing plans and strategies. I am always connected, or I am connected with my customers. How can I do it better? How can I do it on a regular basis? How can I do it in a cost effective manner and yet in a very efficient manner? With all this, I don't want to lose out the objective of saying I want to build my brand. How can I build my strong brand? And brand is something that I want to build, want to leverage, want to establish. And therefore, the focus has got to be on brand building. uh, how do I evolve or change my offerings? I cannot be offering the same thing all the time. There's a restaurant, and the restaurant has not changed its menu for the last 5 years. Can you imagine what that restaurant will go through today? Obviously, it's going to face tough competition uh, unless it decides it must evolve and change its menu. You are not going to be using the same menu all the time, because there's something called as boredom that sets in from your customers, and they're not going to be wanting to come to you, and therefore you need to create new offerings that are going to encourage people to come and purchase goods, avail or purchase your goods. You must be seen as delivering value. Why is that important? If you are not seen as delivering value, the price that you charge for your goods and services are not going to be justified by the consumer in the consumer's mind. If they are not going to justify it, it's going to be an issue. Hence, you must deliver value. And this value, how will you deliver? You must communicate this on a regular, ongoing, continuous basis to your consumers. You must hammer your consumer on an ongoing basis, saying, we deliver value in this manner, so that they are also aware of it. And by doing all of this, developing plan strategies, connecting with your customers, building your brands, you are creating long-term growth. You're creating a sustained growth for your organization through the marketing function. So as you can see, the marketing function is uh, quite busy from the point of view of anything and everything that you want to create. Unilever, for example, has somebody called as a category manager and somebody as a brand manager. Now, what is the difference between a category and a brand in that perspective? A category is more generic, a brand is absolutely specific. So you have toothpaste, which is a category, and you have Colgate, which is a brand. So you have you have skincare, and you have Dove. You have photocopying, and you have Xerox. You have chocolates, and you have Cadbury's. So the difference is between a category and a brand. The category manager obviously plans for the category. The brand manager puts their plans and implements those plans for the brand. So that by and large will cover our first chapter with regards to what is marketing and how do we define marketing. So just a quick recap here. When we are going to define marketing, we define marketing taking into account what is marketing. We take into account kinds that you market, which is FMCG, durables, and services. We must ensure that we are marketing, creating value and delivering on this value. We are marketing brands, We are marketing experiences. We are marketing to a consumer or to a customer. And what are we marketing ultimately? We are dealing with the marketing mix, which is product, place, price, promotion, taking into account the societal forces to be able to achieve the marketing goals and plans that we need to achieve. And lastly, the responsibility of marketing is for everybody within the organization, not a particular function, not the head of that function, not the head of the organization. Yeah. So that is how we are going to define our marketing. So we're kind of laying rules out, or kind of building our blocks by understanding marketing 101, by defining marketing in this complex century, in this complex environment, which is the 21st century.